Okay, I think we are live. Hi guys, I am Dr. Cheryl Luther. I am your quarterly coach, and I am really excited that you're here for this webinar. I have a lot of slides to get through today, so I'm just going to jump right into it. My goal is to keep it about 60 minutes today. Hopefully, I may go over a little bit. I have a lot of information, but I will try to keep it to 60 minutes. I am going to share my screen with you. In the meantime, let me know where you're from. Are you international? Are you in the United States? What state are you from? Let's get this set up here. All right, where are you tuning in from? I'd love to know. Cool, cool. Okay, you should see a blue screen that says You Ain't Quarterly Method, and we are in the right place. So first and foremost, welcome to the webinar. This picture is of my wife and I on our wedding day. And yeah, I want to talk about the elephant in the room. So I'm married to a woman and we're super happy. So if being queer offends you, this is a perfect time to jump off the webinar. I work with a lot of different types of professionals and couples, from gay, straight, lesbian, everything in between. The criteria to work with somebody is, do they just want to improve? Do they want the best out of life? That's the criteria. Who they love has no bearing. So if that's not okay with you, perfect time to jump off. I wish you the best. Otherwise, let's move on. Okay, so stress test. So if you're in a relationship, there more than likely have been a day or two, or maybe multiple, where there's been a stress test in your relationship. A stress test meaning that it's a make or break kind of situation. And our wedding day was a stress test for us. So our wedding day was one of the best days of my life, but also one of the hardest days of my life. And we had a pretty significant rub surrounding our wedding day. So Amy wanted to push the wedding out years and years. We knew we were going to stay together forever, but she wanted to worry about it later, and I wanted to have that wedding much sooner rather than later. And my reasoning was that my dad had cancer, and I really, really wanted my dad to be at that ceremony. So it was definitely a hiccup for us. It was something that we needed to address, and I'll talk about the process here as we get further down the road. But it came up on our quarterly. It came up in our meetings that we have with each other. It came up as a threat. It came up as an opportunity, and I'll get into some of those terms later later in this presentation. But it was definitely something that we needed to address together, because we wanted two different things. The goal was the same, but how we were going to do it was we were not on the same page. So we really had to figure out our next steps forward. And through the conversation, through the process that I'm going to show you today, we were able to put together a really, really stellar game plan, I think. And although Amy did agree to push the date of our wedding up quite significantly, it wasn't enough. My dad didn't make it. So still hard that my dad was not there for our wedding. It was a really, really tough day for me, not having him there. I'm really close with my family. Amy's extremely close with her family, and not having my pops there was hard. So one of the things that we agreed to in those conversations that I had talked about, in that container that we created for our relationship, is that we wanted to represent my dad being there. Even though he couldn't be there physically, we knew he was there spiritually. My dad is an avid pigeon fancier, so he raised homing pigeons. And so what we did was we brought one of his homing pigeons with us to the ceremony. Sorry, I have a dry throat. With us to the ceremony. It was there the whole time during the ceremony. And then when the ceremony concluded, we actually walked the bird out on this beautiful deck. So we're in the mountains in Georgia, or I'm not Georgia, Ontario, in the Blue Mountains. It was a February day, super crisp, no clouds in the sky. It was beautiful. So I walked the bird out said my goodbyes to the bird, to my dad, thanked him for being there, and then was able to release the bird. And if anybody knows anything about homing pigeons, that when you release them, they go back home. They fly. They can fly up to 600 miles in a day, and they fly from wherever they're released to their home, so they're safe and sound. So we incorporated that into our ceremony, and it was awesome for me to include my dad, even though he wasn't there physically. So that was a really cool compromise for us. And another compromise that we did was that because my dad wasn't there and we didn't do the typical father-daughter dance that most couples do, our ceremony was pretty non-traditional anyway, but Amy still wanted to incorporate her father somehow in our ceremony. So we had a chalet, had only our immediate family members there, so very, very small. And we got married in the chalet. And in the chalet, the runway, the aisle needed to be like a dog leg, so it was L-shaped. And when Amy and her dad came down the aisle and they had to make that dog leg, they did a little spin. And it was beautiful and it was cool, and they both got to take a piece of that memory, and that stood in place of a dance. My dad wasn't there to dance with, but Amy still wanted to have something, but not make it uncomfortable for everybody else that my dad wasn't there. So this is what we decided. So a pretty cool compromise in my mind. Like I said, one of the best days of my life, one of the hardest days, one of the best. So the reason I tell you all of that is because this container allows for those conversations and an opportunity to game plan with each other and figure out what steps are you going to take to get to whatever goal you have on the other side. I am sorry, I have a very dry throat. Okay. Question for you. Do you know that January is payday for divorce attorneys? So that's usually when people file, is in January, the second week in January, for divorce, because they try to get through the holidays and they try to just muster through, and then they can't do it anymore, so they file in January. And we talk about divorce because obviously divorce is on that far end of not compromising in that. We just talked about marriage and we talked about divorce, very bookends of the spectrum. But as soon as you have a microfracture and it's not corrected, that fracture gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And we're going to talk about that a little bit in a second. So other random statistic, and these statistics are from the CDC from 2019, if anybody wants to look them up. Every 42 seconds, somebody else files for divorce. Over a 40-year period, about 67% of first marriages terminate, and the average lifespan of a marriage is about 8 years. So we're in an age where divorce is very prevalent, and I think we can do better. Now the question is, why are there so many divorces? Why are there so many fissures? Why are there so many fractures and they can't be brought back together again? So same with the CDC, the statistics, these were the top reasons that were listed for divorces. Lack of commitment. People are arguing too much. Infidelity, people are cheating. Married too young, just immature. Unrealistic expectations. Oof, that hits still, I mean, the best of marriages can fall into that category. Lack of equity in the relationship. Lack of preparation for marriage. Maybe you just didn't know what you were getting into. Domestic violence or abuse. So in the context of this webinar, we're already bumping up against time. I can tell I'm already a little bit behind. We don't have enough time or space to talk about domestic violence. And I am going to say you will always hear me say, I am not a therapist. That's not my expertise. I am a strategist. So I am not equipped to handle abuse and domestic violence, marriages or divorces. So what I can recommend is that you find the right resources to make sure that you're safe and taken care of. So here's a quick resource. I won't dwell on it too much, but you can call or text 1-800-799-SAFE. And you can also go to this website and find resources for law enforcement, divorce attorneys, places to stay. Reach out to them and they can help you get out of that situation. Okay, so we're talking about root causes. So we just talked about the whys. So what is the root cause? Root cause of some of those fissures, some of those little micro things that start to break people apart and they start splitting and going off in different directions. A lack of steady focus on the important things. So other stuff starts to become more important and your attention goes elsewhere. Ineffective communication. I think we can all continually work on our communication. We can always, always, always be better. Not feeling wanted, not feeling secure. Maturity, lack of personal growth. Blaming other people, maybe failure to take some responsibility. This is a big one. Most things can be rooted back down to core values and principles, a mismatch in those and what you believe to be true. The misconception of 50-50. Okay, so you'll hear me say this all the time. So I do not believe that two people in a marriage should each give 50%. I truly believe that each person should give 100%. So you should have 200% coming into a marriage. The misconception is that if we each give 50%, I want to ask, where's the other 50% of your attention going? Is it going to another lover? Is it going to, I don't know, hobbies or work? Where is the other 50% of your effort going? If you give 100%, there's no question where it's going. It's going to stay focused. And we just talked about that steady focus on the important things. So I highly recommend that you give 100%, and whatever 100% of that is for you is 100%. Don't expect your partner to put in 60% and you only put in 40. 200 and 200. I'll get off my soapbox on that one. Okay. So this one is interesting. The belief that love is all that you need, that love will just get us through. Well, I think that most of us are mature enough to understand that, well, there are finances involved, there are houses involved, sometimes there are children or pets, and love can wax and wane. Like I should say, lust can wax and wane. Love's you can't eat love. You can't pay the bills with love. You're going to have to figure out some other game plan to make sure that your living is taken care of. So I do believe that you need love to continue to sustain a relationship, but I don't think that love is going to fill all the buckets. So a little misconception on that one. Okay, so I want to ask you real quick, what would your relationship feel like if you had an open and safe forum to air all your grievances and resolve them? You could resolve those grievances. What would your relationship feel like if you had a place to talk about all your hopes and dreams? Even the ones you're like, kind of like you don't want to admit. What if you had the tools to build a game plan together? And what if you actually had a teammate that was rooting for you all the time and working with you toward the goals that you wanted? And then you had an accountability partner and accountability toward those actions. How much further in your relationship, how much further in your life would you be if you had a relationship that felt like that? If this is resonating with you, let me know in the chat, because this is what I do. This is what I love talking about. I love teaching. So my intention today. And my life mission is really to help people hack the relationship and build connection, build acceptance and security and understanding, so you can have that deep love, you can have that passion, you can have the prosperity, you can have it all. It's possible. So we're gonna talk about a few ways to get there today. And really, I want to make sure that it's clear that I'm not here to put more on your plate. In fact, I am here to take things off of your plate. So when there's less stress in your relationship, there's less stress in your life. You reduce the time of frustration. You reduce the time of redoing things that didn't get done or needed to get done. The wasted effort in trying to book everything on the calendar, and then it doesn't go right, and then you got to like redo it, and then you're angry at your partner, and there's a lot of wasted effort and energy. I want to take that away. I want to make it easy. I want to make it fun. So I want to free up your mind. I want to free up your schedule, and I want you to have enough time for the fun stuff. And what I'm going to say is you're going to have to put some effort in. It's not just a free for all. I'm not going to be able to just hand it to you. I wish I could, but I can't. It's gonna require a little bit of effort on your end, but little on the front end, massive benefit on the back end. So, like I said, I'm a strategist. I am through and through a strategist. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a mind reader, but I love process, and I love what the process can bring and pull out of people, and the cool, fun things that can happen from those processes. So we talked a little bit about divorce on that front end. And if divorce is part of your story, I want to make sure that you understand that that is okay, that you found your truth, and I congratulate you in figuring out your truth. And there's no shame in that. Why I bring that up is just because it's two bookends of a spectrum. It's the extreme, right? And anybody who's gone through a divorce knows that it's not necessarily a pleasant experience. It can be very stressful. So what I really want to ask you is, what would your life look like, or what would society look like, if finding your truth means being happier and more productive in your situation, whether that's divorce or not? But what if you were happier and more productive in your situation? Who could you touch? What kind of things could you accomplish? How would society be better? So that's what we're going to cover. So you're in the right place if you really want to strengthen the foundation for communication and trust with your partner. This is what we do. And we build unshakable relationships, which is really, really fun. You can have that love that you see in the movies. It's truly possible. So you're in the right place if you want a lifetime of fulfillment, passion, and understanding. Who doesn't want that? Some people just don't know how to take the next step. They know that they have something pretty cool, but how do they make it even better? You're in the right place. I had a couple of clients that say, man, I'm really struggling to connect with my partner. Now, like little things, like, I don't know, laundry, like she puts all the laundry together. I want the darks and the whites separate, like little things, or like quite large things. Like I don't feel secure. Maybe grass is starting to look greener on the other hill over there. Some pretty big things. So some people struggle to connect a little bit. Sometimes a couple of our clients have said that they know that they have a really cool partner, but little things have snuck in, like maybe work's just overwhelming. Maybe the kids are they just take a lot of time and effort, and that one or both partners are really struggling to focus on what's important. We've also had a couple of partners come to us, and they know the relationship's good. They're solid, but they're a little stale. They're a little boring. They do the same things over and over and over again, and they're looking for something that's a little bit more exciting. We've had a couple clients come to us and say, you know what, there's just some certain topics that we don't bring up. We don't talk about them because it's going to cause a fight, so we ignore them. And that's not the best way to thrive. So we cover that definitely here. I'll show you. I'll talk about sacred cows here in a few minutes. I've had a couple of clients say that, you know what, they'd rather work. They like being a workaholic. They don't want to come home. They dread coming home. So it's just easier to work. So for some couples that is true, you're in the right place. Had a couple of partners say, you know what, I'm really questioning, do I love my partner? Do they love me? And that's a big question to ask. And again, we talk about truth. And I will never tell anybody that their truth is wrong. Again, I'm going back to, I am a strategist, and we try to get to the root cause, and we try to get to a good game plan. And if that means divorce, if that means separation, if that means being together, if that means having whatever that means for you, cool. Let's get to your truth. Let's get you happy. Let's get you productive, and see what can come of that. So sometimes we've had a couple couples come to us and they just argue and they fight. Sometimes they get to the point where they're just not talking at all for a couple of days. That's hard to thrive when you're not talking to your partner for a couple of days. And then insecurity can creep in. So this webinar is for anybody who has related to anything that I just mentioned there. All right, let's get to some of the meat. So we're going to cover those 4 unconscious relationship blockers today, and we're also going to cover 3 mistakes that you might be making. And if you are, after today, being aware of them, you can change it immediately. And I put this up here because, man, I'll tell you my story in a little bit here, but this red googly mess is how I discovered all this stuff. Man, I would work so hard, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, sideways, up, down, backwards, spinning it on my heel. Like I could not seem to get a handle on going forward in life for quite a long time. And I dug into books, I dug into conferences, I dug into lots of different types of education. And so why I put this up here is that I've been through it all. And because you're here to talk with me in this webinar, man, you get a straight shot. I'm just going to tell you how it is. You don't have to worry about all the going forward and going backward. So you get the streamlined vision, really. All right. So I talked a little bit about effort. Results are the outcomes from effort you're willing to put in. So especially when it comes to relationships, there's no silver bullet. And you can have the most incredible experience and it's like out of this world, cool relationship, but you're gonna have to put a little bit of effort in the beginning. So I want to kind of preface this whole work about having to put in a little bit of effort to get a lot of benefit. So why you should pay attention? Because the single most important thing that creates happiness and longevity for each individual is having healthy relationships. So we want healthy relationships. We want to connect. And that's what creates health, wellness, longevity for humans. Most of you on this call are professionals. You may have heard this study before. It was done by Harvard. It was Harvard study of adult development. It was a number of years ago, but they followed a series of men through quite a few years, and they took baseline information. They collected a lot of data. But at the end of the day, at the end of the study, what they found is that good relationships keep us happier and healthier. Like, full stop. That's like the result of this multi-year, multi-individual study, is that good relationships keep us happier and healthier. And what they found, some of the data showed that these participants were healthier. They had less heart disease, fewer strokes, less cancer. Their memory and brain function was much higher than the control group. Their sense of security, of feeling good inside, was high. They were motivated to do stuff. They had a zest for life. And it was all because they had healthy relationships. So there was also another study done not too long ago. I think it was early 2000s, University of Illinois, and it was done on personal happiness. And the study found that those who were very happy and showed the fewest signs of depression were those who, quote unquote, had strong ties to friends and family and commit to spending time with them. Strong ties to friends and family and commit to spending time with them. That's big. That's healthy relationships. So when we disconnect from the people we love, we can feel lonely. It doesn't feel nice and warm and good inside. So relationships don't have to be complicated. They just have to be honest. They have to be respectful. They have to be authentic. And it can really increase our happiness and our longevity. So that's why you should pay attention. However, I know that there are some people that need a little something more tangible. So if you need something more tangible to stay on the rest of the webinar, I do have a bonus for you at the very end of this webinar. I'll give you a link and you can go download it. It's on date day ideas. It's a blueprint. It's kind of a step-by-step what to do, some different ideas on how to take your love out and have a good time. So we talked about those 4 unconscious relationship blockers. Let's get into the meat. So blocker number 1. Blocker for not having a good relationship, not having a thriving space. Okay, so 1 of 4. Not having a safe place to process and to air grievances. So if you don't have a process in a place, you don't have a container to talk about things, to figure out things together. Like there's no, this talks about not having a space where you know that you could have a safe conversation. So this is really talking about how to broach topics and have real conversations. And you don't have to argue about it. You can just calmly have these conversations. So that's the first blocker. And I'll give you a quick example here. So this is me when I was a kid, and where that blonde hair went, I don't know. You can see I'm clearly not blonde, but that was me. You can tell with the face in my teeth, that's definitely me. However, I put this picture up there because it reminds me of my growing up. So the example, my folks, they didn't have a container. They had a lot of resentment. They had a lot of anger. There was a lot of unfairness in our family, a lot of temper, a lot of blaming. I heard often, all I do is blank and you do nothing, or you do blah, blah, blah. It would always, those tempers and the blaming and the uncomfortableness and the arguing would always come up at the worst times. And then neither my mom or my dad would broach the subject later. Like if there'd be a big blow up, everybody would be super uncomfortable, and then sweep it under the carpet. And then it would come up again at like another really bad time. So it was just this awful cycle of blow up, ignore, blow up, ignore, blow up, ignore. And us 3 kids, so I'm the oldest of three girls. We never knew what was going to happen. We were always on eggshells. Is today going to be a good day? Oh, hide from dad. Oh, mom's angry. Okay, so we should just stay in our room. Oh, everything looks okay. I think we can come out and play. Like we were always on eggshells. We never knew what to expect. But if my folks would have just sat down and had a conversation and got to the root cause and a root solution for a few things, our lives could have been so much smoother. So again, the blocker, not having a safe process or a place to air grievances. And then also celebrate those wins. So giving a good high five and knowing that it's safe to like be excited about something. So this is the framework for blocker number 1. So we're going to go through step by step on how to do these things. Step 1 is really start with agreeing with your partner that you'd like to strengthen your connection. And the first question that always comes up with when I start talking about this is there's always this like this thing where, well, he or she won't be into this. He or she won't won't talk to me about this? How do I talk to somebody who doesn't want to talk to me? Great question. Fantastic question. What I say is you can go through this process all on your own and up-level yourself and how you are responding to the situation. And you can intimately and greatly change the positivity in the relationship. So if your partner's not ready, not ready to step up to the plate and start strengthening the connection, that's okay. You can do it on your own. You are responsible for how you show up. And if you're showing up in a better way, then that means that the relationship's going to be more solid. And then you just take it step by step. So if you're an architect, though, the likelihood that both partners are ready to connect is very high. And we'll keep moving on because if I know anything about architects like personal development and trying to get to the bottom of things and working things out. So step one, connect with your partner and agree to strengthen the connection. Part two, make sure you schedule some time away just dedicated to the conversation. Make it a date, put it on the calendar, maybe go out to dinner, maybe go for a walk. Just make sure there's time set aside for you guys to have this conversation. Step three, all right, here's a ground rule. As you start to, if you're floating around in my sphere, you know that I have some ground rules, especially when it comes around this process. So one of the ground rules that we talk about is that you're not allowed to blame anybody for your own emotions. You must take responsibility for your own emotions. So no blaming. Don't blame anybody else for how you feel or what triggers you. And I have a quick example here. So Amy, my wife, she calls me Shamu. Not because I'm big, but because I like water and I kind of make a mess with water. I make a mess around the kitchen sink. I make a mess in the bathroom, and she calls me Shamu. So it doesn't bother me clearly, but it drives her nuts. It drives her bonkers that there's water on the sink or water on the floor, and hence the name Shamu. So she gets really, really angry when she sees water. It doesn't trigger me at all. I'm totally fine with it. But she's pissed. So we've matured and enough development of our own selves that now she's the one that will say, when you have water on the floor, when you come out of the shower and water drips off of your body, I feel frustrated. She's owning it. I feel frustrated. Doesn't trigger me at all. I have to recognize that it triggers her. And of course I want to do something about it, but she's owning it. She's the one that feels frustrated. So ground rule number 3, own your own emotions. Definitely express your emotions, but don't blame anybody else for how you feel. Okay, so step 4 and 1 and that first blocker, allow the process to guide you. So trust the process. Trust the process of having that conversation, and start with the easy stuff. Start with the little things that are maybe just, you know, those micro cracks that we talked about earlier. Just the little things, the laundry, darks and lights. Talk about that before you get into infidelity and big work issues and kid issues. Like, start small, work on the easier stuff, and then as you get practice and you feel pretty good, then start tackling some of the bigger issues. You might be thinking, okay, well, this is great and all, but I just don't have time for this. I would beg you to take a look at your calendar and say, how much time are you wasting by not addressing this? Could be quite a lot. So what I suggest is make this an event, make it fun. Maybe you guys go overnight somewhere and you stay at a hotel and you do spa day, but you have this conversation. It can be a lot of fun to have this connection with your partner. So and there's just a ton of pressure that can be relieved if you know that it's going to be an event, it's scheduled, you're ready to go, it doesn't get canceled. you're dedicated to the conversation, and it can really take a lot of stress off on the back end. Like I said, little effort on the front end, big reward on the back end. Okay, so let's get into 2 of 4. This is blocker 2. Not using your voice to express your true thoughts and desires. So your voice and your ears to really hear what your partner is saying. So this means that you have to do a little pre-work to know what you believe and what you want to be able to voice it. But you also have to be able to use your ears to hear your partner voice what they want. So let me just give you a quick example of, like, let's see. So, okay, you come over to my place. I just got this beautiful pizza oven. I'm gonna make a pizza for you. I'm super excited about it. Got the dough rolled out. It's all like homemade. You know, I've made the sauce. It's got perfect amount of basil in it. I'm like, okay, so what do you want on your pizza? You're like, yeah, just surprise me. Make it up. Whatever. I'm like, okay. So I ask you again. Well, I'm not really sure. Do you like vegetables? Do you like meat? And you're like, yeah, whatever. It's fine. It's gonna be great. I'm like, yeah, I'm a little nervous about this, but okay. I'm gonna wing it. So I throw everything on it. I throw, pepperoni, I throw the anchovies, I throw the onion, I throw pineapple, I throw bacon, I throw green pepper, I throw chicken, whatever. I throw everything on it. It's like this massive mound pizza. Put it in the oven, pull it out. I'm super excited for you to try it. Hand it over. And you're like, what is that? It's not even a pizza. And you're like, well, what's wrong with it? You're like, it has anchovies on it. It has pineapple on it. Well, I asked you what you wanted. And you said, surprise you. So I did. So now I've disappointed you. I'm disappointed that I've disappointed you. So we're both disappointed. The pizza's not going to get eaten because it's gross. And so here's why I want to give you that example. The person that ordered the pizza or wanted the pizza needed to use their voice, needed to tell me what they wanted on the pizza. And the person making the pizza needed to use their ears to hear what needed to be on that pizza. So you both can be happy. So I have another quick example, and I'm already over time. So I'm going to try to speed through some of this. I'm talking fast. All right, so I had a couple of clients that came in. One is very noisy. The other one was like near mute, didn't say a darn thing. And what we found is that I took them through the exercise. I call it pre-work. It's before we get deep into the container, but it's kind of baseline. And one of those things is what is your love language? By the way, do you know what your love language is? If you do, put it in the chat. I want to know what your love language is. So back to the story. So I took them through this exercise of what makes them feel loved. And although they had been together forever and ever and ever, I think close to 30 years, they didn't know what made the other person feel loved. And one of the reasons was because the noisy one just talk. And the quiet one just tuned her out. Didn't hear a damn thing that this one was saying because this one talked way too much. This one talked so much that this one never said a word and never, ever opened her mouth to say what made her feel loved. So for this whole time, they were missing each other. They didn't know how to feel love with each other. So it's really a balancing act of using your voice to say what's important to you, but also using your ears to listen and hear and comprehend and make sure that you're on the same page. So they are a work in progress, but they are doing much better now. I can report. They both feel loved in their respective ways, which is kind of cool. All right, here's the framework for blocker 2. The steps for that is really reflect, and discover what you believe to be true for you, and then being brave to be you. It's okay to be authentically you and to be able to express that. We have another ground rule. Okay, so ground rules. I love my ground rules. Okay, so remember that both of you, while you're discussing these things, are in a vulnerable position. So you need to be respectful. Both parties need to be respectful. You don't want somebody being mean or angry when you're pouring out your heart, or you're expressing something that is kind of near and dear to you and could be a little uncomfortable. So if you want your partner to open up, you're going to have to open up as well, but you're also going to have to be receiving what your partner is telling you. So be willing to discuss how you really feel. And remember, use your ears to hear your partner, how they feel. And then step 4 is, I love this one, avoid mañana syndrome. Do it now, don't do it tomorrow. Mañana, tomorrow, Spanish. Avoid mañana syndrome. Don't wait. Tackle it now. Do it now. Don't wait. All right. So 3 of 4, blocker, avoiding sacred cows. I mentioned this earlier in the webinar. So what the heck is a sacred cow? So a sacred cow are those things that you avoid talking about at all costs. Like, you just ignore them because it's easier. You sweep it under the rug. You don't want to argue about it. You don't want to cause a fight. Maybe topics are a little embarrassing and it's just uncomfortable, so you don't want to bring it up. And maybe it's just stuff that you want to talk about, but you're just really not sure how to bring it up. It's also possible it could be something that you learned in a previous relationship or as a child, that this is a no topic. You don't talk about it. So those are sacred cows. So in blocker number 3, I say avoid the sacred cows. Let's talk about the stuff. Let's get it out in the open. Let's figure it out together. Yes, we can be a little vulnerable, but it's not okay to suffer in silence. It's not okay to allow that little crack to get bigger and bigger and bigger because you're unwilling to talk about stuff. So a thriving relationship doesn't have sacred cows. All right, so does this make sense? If this is making sense to you, please throw a yes in the chat. I'd love to know if I need to go back and clarify anything. Okay, so a quick example on this one. Val and Heath, this is an interesting one that I was working with them not too long ago, and really came down to, we were talking about feelings, and we were talking about in that container, and we were going through some of those sacred cows. And through the process, we pulled those sacred cows out. And through that process, we discovered that Val had a big sacred cow that she never talked about. It's because Heath has a couple of kids. Val and Heath have been together for quite some time, but Val never felt like a real parent in the relationship, even though the kids are, I think, I don't know, there was 2 teenagers and 7 or 8, but they'd been together since the youngster had been just a baby. So this was their family unit for a long time, but still Val didn't feel validated as a parent in the relationship, because Heath would always side with the kids, would criticize Val in front of the kids, even if it was something that Heath would have done himself. So Val always felt like she wasn't a true parent or able to discipline the kids or really have a lot of say in this relationship, even though they had been together for a really long time. So she felt ganged up on. She felt like she was just, that he didn't respect her, that she was unimportant in the relationship. And it was really, I mean, she was in tears. This was a big sacred cow for her. So after they got through some of the reasoning why, they were able to come up with a game plan on how to make things better. But he had no idea this is how Val felt until we talked about sacred cows. So years and years and years to being together. And there was a lot that had built up between the two of them around this topic. So it's super valuable to be able to get this stuff off your chest and come up with a good game plan with your partner. So does this sound like anybody you know? Because this is not the first time that we've encountered this particular parenting situation with our clients. So they're doing much better, by the way, and Val is definitely feeling a lot more validated in the parenting respect, and they're co-parenting much better. I get a couple updates every once in a while from them, and things are going really well. So here's the framework for blocker number 3. Another ground rule. No sacred cows between you and your love. No sacred cows. So I'm going to ask you, in your relationship, what's being killed right now by ignoring it? I don't know what it is, but what's being killed by ignoring blank sacred cow? All right, step number 2. So we're going to talk about who and what is considered to be exempt from criticism. What is a sacred cow in your relationship? And then why are they exempt? Why are they being, why is that conversation spit it out, Cheryl. Why has it been ignored? Why has it been swept under the carpet? Why are they exempt? And then really the next step is having the courage to determine what's the new plan going forward to avoid those sacred cows. Now that it's out in the open, what are you going to do to correct it? Okay, blocker number 4 of 4 is allowing everything else to take priority over your relationship and hijacking your time. Time's a big one. And I don't feel like I ever have enough time. Time and money, right? So this is considered the number 1 reason why you probably don't feel heard, is because something else is hijacking time. So here's a quick example. Riley, in a former relationship, way before I met my wife, I was in a relationship and we decided to get a dog. It was not a good decision, but we had made that decision. And we were both working full time. Her office was quite a bit further than my office from the house. So a default of caretaking fell on my shoulders to make sure that the dog was taken out on all my breaks, and especially during lunch, so that the puppy could go to the bathroom. It's really important to let your pets out to go to the bathroom. So what was happening was I was spending so much time running back and forth between my office and the house that I wasn't getting any work done at the office. I was seeing patients, but I wasn't getting any of my files completed. I wasn't getting any of the billing done. So what would happen is, because I was running back and forth, I would end up having to stay late every day to get my files done, to get billing done, so I, can bring in some money for the office. And I was coming home really late on most nights, and my partner was mad because I was not home. So at the end of the day, Riley, our dog, was hijacking my time that should have been focused on getting work done and then being able to come home, instead of spending it with my partner at the time. So so let's do a quick exercise here. What in your life is hijacking your time? So I want you to pull out a sheet of paper, and you can see with this slide you've got 4 different columns. You can number them, you can list them. It doesn't have to be precise, but what you want to do is in one column list everything that you're doing in a day. You're feeding the dog, you're making lunch, you're driving to work, you're working, you're taking care of the kids, you're taking care of an elderly parent. You're doing all of these things. And then to the right of that column, I want you to write down, should you eliminate it? Should you automate it? Or should you delegate it? Now there are some things that you must do. I get that. But if you can, I want you to just consider a possibility of one of these three things. Can you eliminate it completely? Like, it's just not important. Like, why are you doing this thing? Can we get rid of it? Automate it? Can you, like, it's a recurring meeting. Like, it's on date days, you know that every Friday at 7 o'clock, you are going to have dinner with your love, and you know what restaurant it's going to be at. Just call the restaurant and say, book me out for the next 52 weeks at 7 o'clock. Here's my credit card to hold it. Done. So for 51 more weeks, you don't ever have to call again. It's already automated. So it takes a lot of time back. Or delegate it. Can somebody else do it for you? Good example, if you can afford a maid, or you can afford somebody to come in to clean your house, that could really bring back a lot of time to you if somebody else is doing something along those lines. For us, meal prep is a big deal. So can we delegate somebody to do meal prep for us? So we've contracted with one of actually Amy's friends that she used to work with, is a chef, and so she puts together these meals for us. We pay her. It's great for her small business, great for me because I don't have to prep the work or prep the food. All I have to do is warm it up, and it's super yummy and it's healthy. So I was able to delegate that. So what on your list can you eliminate, automate, or delegate? So hopefully you'll have that as a takeaway with this webinar. And then I hope that you take action on it. Okay, so step one, we just talked about this. Decide what's most important to you. What needs to stay in your box? What needs to get done in your life? And then using the tool, what can you say no to? What can you eliminate off of your plate? And then set aside some time, set aside a little bit of chunk of time to make sure that you take action on that list. So you can automate things so you don't have to worry about the time later. And really eliminate the distractions in your relationship. That's the next step. So don't let stuff hijack your time from your relationship. Okay, so as I mentioned before, this is not rocket science. But the key to finding success is really taking those small actions, like actions, actually doing something, just not knowing what to do, but doing it. That's the key. That's, like I said, not rocket science, but you have to take action. A little bit of effort on the front end, big reward on the back end. All right, so let me just ask you real quick. If you just address the 4 things, those 4 blockers that we just talked about, do you think that your relationship could be healthier, stronger, maybe even a little bit more resilient? So how much is having an unshakable relationship worth to you? Even if you totally screwed up the 4 things that we just talked about and you just tried, you just shifted your mindset just a little bit, what would that do in your relationship? If we have, okay, so I'm sure we have a couple golfers in here. If we have our golf ball, we know where we want to hit it that way. We've got our club. We know that if we hit our club like this, the trajectory is going to be in a certain direction. Now, if we pivot or change or shift the club just a millimeter, what is that going to do to the trajectory of that ball? It's going to change it exponentially on the other end. It doesn't look like a lot here when we hit the ball, but where it ends up is tremendous. So let me ask you, what would your relationship look like if you just pivoted the face of your club 1 millimeter right here, right now with those 4 things? What does that look like at the end? It's huge, it's massive. Again, a little bit of effort, big, huge reward at the back end. Okay, so effort in this realm really, really does count. Let's talk about those 3 mistakes because I am running out of time. Okay, mistake 1 of 3. So I want to ask you, are you taking responsibility what you feed into the universe? Are you? So I want to ask, I want to talk a little bit about speaking badly about your partner outside of your relationship. So one of the things that we talk about in the quarterly method is never, never, ever, ever speak badly about your partner to anyone. Not to your mom, not to your mother-in-law, not to your sister, not to your best friend. If you have a hiccup or an issue with your partner, talk to your partner. Don't talk around your partner. Talk to your partner. Talk with your partner. Don't talk around your partner. So you never ever want to, I have somebody calling. There we go. Sorry about that. Never ever want to talk badly about your partner to anyone, because you don't want other people to have a bad impression about you, your relationship, what you guys stand for. If there is a problem that can't be resolved between you and your partner, then it's time to reach out to a therapist. It's time to reach out to a professional that can help moderate that conversation. But don't put bad stuff out in the universe. So quick story around this is that I'm going to read this. Actually, it's a Cherokee legend. I really enjoy the thought process around this legend. So I'm just going to read it to you. An old man told his grandson, my son, there's an endless battle that goes on inside all of us. It's between two wolves. One wolf is bad. He's anger, envy, regret, greed, arrogance, resentment, lies, superiority, and ego. The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The grandson thought about it and then asked the grandfather, which wolf will win? The old man answered, the one you feed. When I was younger and didn't understand that I have a choice, and the bad wolf inside me grew, I fed him heaping helpings of anger, sadness, regrets, blame, and resentments. Lack of self-worth makes it easy for us to stoke the worst parts of ourselves. Negative feelings help the bad wolf to grow fat and mock us with his defiance and rage. It took me years to learn that only I could feed the good wolf, and I fortify myself to allow the good wolf to become strong. Today's promise to consider each of us has a choice and that we are responsible for our own outcomes. And this tattoo is actually of my brother-in-law. So he's had a few demons, I guess, if you want to call it that. Some good times and some bad times. But he's really taken it to heart that he is responsible for the good times in his life, and he's taking responsibility for the bad things. And he knows that he needs to feed the good wolf, and he knows that so deeply that he tattooed this on his chest as a reminder every morning before he puts his shirt on. So feed the good wolf. Don't air your dirty laundry out there. Okay, 2 of 3. Show gratitude. Are you showing gratitude in your relationship? And I just don't mean like, hey babe, thanks for dinner. I mean like specific gratitude, more like, sort of like, hey, thanks for dinner. You could say, I really thought you did a great job roasting that chicken, and the carrots last night were fantastic. Thanks for making such a great dinner, or a yummy dinner. Do you want, hey, thanks for dinner, or like, this was really good. You did a great job roasting. Like, what feels better? Well, for me, it's the more specific. It's like, okay, well, if you like the roasted chicken, I can do that again. I can definitely do that again. So you're probably going to get roasted chicken more often. So which one do you like to hear? Do you like to hear number 1, or do you like to hear number 2? Number 1 being just, hey, thanks. Number 2 being more specific. Which one do you like to hear? I definitely like to hear number 2. Okay, so number 3, having a rhythmic and repeatable process to open dialogue. So that is really what this is all about, having a container to talk about things and having it rhythmic and repeatable, so emotions are low and you can actually get to the meat of the situation without emotions taking us off in different directions. And it's a repeatable process. This container is repeatable. It's a system. Remember, I'm a strategist. I like process. So life happens, things change. You need something that's repeatable and rhythmic, because we all, as we age, we mature, new things come into our life, we need to pivot on things, our careers morph into different things, our children grow up, pets come and go, like things happen. So we need to have a container that allows for us to have those conversations as life pivots. So, and that's what can keep us on track. So I really like to talk about, instead of mistakes, it's more like, are you taking these actions? So you can take these actions today, which is really cool. So when we talk about that rhythmic and repeatable process, really like to introduce the communication hacking process of the quarterly method now, because this is everything that we've talked about is the quarterly method, is that container, is this opportunity to talk with your love and get to the bottom of where do you want to go and how are you going to get there together, which is pretty darn cool. And I love this process. I absolutely love this process. It's a safe place. It's repeatable. Like I said, you can cover a ton in a very short period of time. So you can save a lot of effort and a lot of time. This process really breeds a lot of trust and security. And you really eliminate arguing over the silly stuff, which is awesome. And it builds that ultimate prosperity and ultimate passion, because things are going so well and things can build on each other. It's pretty cool. So I am running over. I'm hitting that 60-minute mark as we speak. So I am not going to tell you about my story, but if you want to hear my story, you can definitely jump in on my YouTube channel. And that story, my background is on there. So we're gonna jump right past that. So what the heck is the quarterly method? Well, I'm also gonna jump past this for the sake of time. What is the quarterly method? Okay, so I just want to show you what we cover in the quarterly method. So ultimately, the quarterly method is a process that you sit down with your love and you go over 12 different dimensions of your life. And that ranges from like spirituality, personal growth, emotional growth, intellectual growth, parenting, health and fitness, quality of life. Like there's a lot of stuff that's covered in those 12 dimensions. And you talk about your hopes and dreams. You talk about things that are going really well in your life. You talk about things that are not going so well in your life. And then you talk about, okay, what's really important? Where do we want, what direction do we want to go? Once we know what direction we want to go, now we can start devising a game plan. So what are our bigger goals? So what, like 3-year goals? What are our big 3-year goals? And then we whittle that down to, okay, what can we accomplish in the next 12 months? What are our 1-year goals together as a partnership? And then we whittle that further down to, okay, what can we do in the next 90 days to take action to get to those goals? And that's where this quarterly process comes in. Quarter, meaning 4 times a year, every 90 days, you're having this conversation, you're checking in, seeing where you're at, creating a new set of small chunks of goals. We call them rocks. So those 90-day goals are called rocks. So you're able to say, were we successful? Not so successful? How do we pivot? Maybe something's changed. I told you at the very beginning, my dad had cancer. That's a big pivot from thinking you're going to have your parents for a long period of time to now I have one parent. Big pivot. So pivots happen in our life. So this repeatable process allows us to have those conversations. Life is not stagnant. So I'm going to actually dive right into, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here real quick. And I want to show you the actual course. Go. Okay, so you should see the masterclass, the communication masterclass here on the screen. And this masterclass has 37 steps to it, but it's broken down into 6 sections. So here you get a welcome video, you have some pre-course stuff, some thought starters. So a couple of triggers to get you thinking, get your brain working in the right direction of what do you want, what is important to you. Then we go into the first section, which is getting to know yourself, doing some pre-work. So pre-work, meaning we talk about some of those ground rules. We've covered a couple today, but there are a few more ground rules. We talk about our core values. We talk about our love languages. We talk about our personality types and how we listen and how we learn. And then we share that with our partner. We go into figuring out what do we want? What do we want at the end of our life? What's really important to us? What do we want our children or our spouse to say at our funeral? It's a little morbid, but that gets you thinking about, okay, there's what's in a number of years down the road. What am I really going to go after? And then we talk about what do you want? And that's in those 12 different categories in the North Star vision. And we talk about our goal setting. So we set up when we talk about a one-page operating picture. So it is one single page, and it has your core values, has your personality type, it has what your 3-year goals are, it has what's really important to you on this one sheet that you can refer back to over and over and over again in that cycle. So that's a one-page operating system, or one-page operating picture. So we cover that. Like I said, goal setting. We talk about those sacred cows. We pull them out. We don't let them fester. We have those tough conversations. We go through your relationship. I mean, I don't necessarily go through, you go through your relationship and understand what's happening right now in your relationship. What do you want to happen in the future? And then we start talking about our goals and I say stickies. I love stickies. Stickies, like, like the 3M stickies, helps us get through the process of let's nail down some action items. And then we get into our just do it's, our projects, and our parking lot. So those are those action items. Like, what can we do in the next 90 days? What are the most important things in the next 90 days? When we go through this process, we have a full list of action items that we can take. But like I said, there's just not enough time. So we want to make sure that we're picking the things that are going to get us the most bang for our buck. So we have the just do it's, which are like a phone call, 5 minutes. I need to call the dentist. That's a just do it. A project is something that's a little bit more meaty. It's going to take a couple of weeks, maybe some finances invested. Like we built a deck, and then we needed to paint the deck. So that was a big project. Cost a little bit of money, definitely some planning. Something that Amy and I had to talk about. That was in our 12 categories. That was like our house category. And then we have the parking lot. So like I said, there's going to be a laundry list of things, but not everything's going to make that highest priority list. So we put that aside in a parking lot. So like you go to the grocery store, you don't drive your car right into the store. You drive your car to the parking lot, you park it, and then you walk in. So just like driving your car, leaving your car in the parking lot, we're going to leave some of those action items back in the parking lot. We're going to walk in the store and we're going to do the handful of things that are highest priority. We're going to come back to the parking lot and reevaluate. Are those action items still valid that next quarter? If so, yeah, okay, let's put them on the priority list. If not, they stay in the parking lot. So we don't forget about things, but we only focus on things that are the most important. We talk about calendarization. Anybody that knows me knows that, man, I love putting things on the calendar because I can see it. I know what's going to happen. I can plan for it and I can repeat it. So it saves time. And then we talk about our rocks, like I just said, those 90-day goals and our priorities, and we build that action plan around it. So this is the quarterly method. And there are videos and there are worksheets in each one of these 37 lessons. And they range from 2 minutes, minute and a half, to about 13, 14 minutes each. But I'll get into that in just a second. So I just wanted to show you, like, this is the container. This is the container. This is what makes Yeah, let's see if I can make that better. There we go. So this is what makes us this is what helps us stay on track. This is the pathway. This is the map. So in the quarterly method, we have annual, and then we have each quarter. So in quarter one, we cover a lot of stuff. And if you've done this multiple years, you review it again in the annual. So quarter one is still pretty heavy, but yeah, you get a chance to review it rather than create it. So in this container, what we have is the pre-work. You can see that here. We have our annual information, which includes like what's happening right now, where we want to go. And then we have our first quarter, which is we talk about that one-page operating picture. We talk about those tough conversations, those sacred cows. We have some to-do items. And that's your first like bucket for the quarterly method. And then the next quarter rolls around. You can see this blue section right here. You review, see what went well, what didn't go well, what do you need to pivot to, what new goals do you need to create, and then you have the next quarter, and then you have the fourth quarter here, and you reevaluate how well did you do, what do you need to focus on for the next quarter. So it's this big cycle. That is the quarterly method. Every year you're meeting 4 times with your love, and you're going through all of this stuff. So I hope that is making sense. I'm going to get back to the slide deck. I'm going to try to get back to the slide deck. It's saying that I am not able to get in there. There we go. Okay. All right, we should be back to the slide deck. So that was the overview of the quarterly method. I hope that made sense. So you might feel like you're drinking out of a fire hydrant, because I've spoken pretty fast today. We're definitely over 60 minutes. I apologize for that. So if this is you, don't feel bad. There's a lot of information here. And besides this container, you've maybe tried some other things to connect with your love. And I want to ask you, what were the results? Maybe you've tried couples therapy. Maybe you've tried individual therapy. Maybe you've tried to talk with your love through maybe getting help through EAP at work, self-help books. Maybe you've talked to friends, family members. Maybe, let's see, what else? We've had a couple of people say that Dr. Phil's been influential. So TV personalities. A lot of people say they ignore stuff. Dr. Google has come up a number of times. So we've had a couple of people say that they've tried awkward couples mixers. It didn't go so well. Other things like mediators, accountants, lawyers, they all have the time and a place. There's time and a place for that. But if you're at a place where you want to still have those conversations and you're willing to work together, then this container works a lot better than those mediators, accountants, and lawyers. I've had a couple of people just, man, they just like to work because they don't want to come home. So they become a workaholic. Along those tendencies like alcohol, drugs, just like avoidance techniques. People have tried some of those things. The gym can be an escape as well, kind of like work. Maybe try an open arrangement, so like the grass can start looking greener in another direction. And maybe this sounds like you. Maybe you've tried some of these things, and if you have, you're not alone, because I got all of that from current clients. So what I'm asking is, does this sound better to you than some of those other options? And I've always got skeptics. So there's always there are always the skeptics out there. And the first one is I don't think my partner's going to be into this. No big deal. Okay, that's cool. You can do this on your own. You absolutely can. You can take responsibility for showing up for you. He won't talk about his emotions, or she won't talk about their emotions. Again, I want to encourage you to take responsibility for you and how you're showing up. And that's all that you can do. That's all you can promise yourself is how you're showing up. A lot of people say they don't have time for this. I agree that the initial seems like it's a lot of effort, but like I said, a little bit of effort on the front end, you have massive reward on the back end. So at the end of the day, you are saving a ton of time and energy. If this container sounds like something that you'd be interested in. This is a big one, especially for our architects. We're just not in crisis. I don't think this is for us. I will tell you that Amy and I have been doing this for years and years and years. We're not in crisis, but we find lots to talk about every single quarter. And it's mind-blowing to me that we do this every 90 days and we still are growing. There's not been a quarter where we haven't had an aha, figured out something. Like I said, life changes, life pivots. And it's a great opportunity to have a conversation with the person that you're spending your life with. So there have been a couple people that have come through our program that they were just not really quite ready to admit that things weren't 100% okay, that they just didn't want to say it out loud. And then there's other people that just didn't want to air their dirty laundry, and you don't have to in this program. It's not part of the program to air your dirty laundry. You get to go through the program and talk to your love. Like I said, talk to your human, talk to your person. But don't air your dirty laundry to anybody else. So your privacy is definitely remained. And we've had a couple of clients say that, man, I just feel like my spouse doesn't get me. And this just might be too big of a jump. So it's very possible that is true. But how do you get past that unless you try to take some action toward finding a container that you guys can both hear each other? To remember using your voice and your ears to talk to each other. And some people just like, I don't even know where to start. Well, this is a good place. You're in a really good place. And everybody's situation is unique. So we all think that, it's not going to work for me because my situation is completely different than so-and-so situation. And what I'd like to say is that definitely that is true, but this is a process, and the process meets you where you are. If you're on the verge of divorce, you're on the verge of taking an Italian vacation of your dreams. Either way, there's still planning that needs to take place. And if you guys can talk about it and plan for it and meet your goals, you're going to be so much better off. We've also had a couple people that are just afraid to rock the boat. It's pretty good. Not sure if they should try to make it better because they're pretty okay. So if you want to make it better, this is the container. It's up to you. So you have a couple of options. You can take this information that I've given you and run with it, implement it on your own. If you feel like, oh my gosh, this is just like that fire hydrant, you're just drinking out of a fire hydrant and there's just too much, and you want a little bit of help, well, I can definitely lend you that help. This is what I do. This is what I love. So if